Hello and welcome to another episode of Focus On with me, Gyamo Musipili. Every year, 200 plus delegates gather to discuss and strengthen economic ties between Southern Africa and Europe. Today, we explore the role of geopolitical shifts, the need for capacity building, and the role of Gauteng as an economic gateway to the rest of Africa. We've gathered here today where a number of governments, CEOs, and industry leaders are in attendance to foster economic ties and trade relations between Europe and Southern Africa. As this marks your 11th year, kindly just walk us through some of the developments the past decade and your outlook into the future of the CEO dialogue.
Yes. First of all, it's an honor and a privilege for me to be here. And we founded the TEA Africa, the European House Ambrosetti Africa, with the explicit mission to support bilateral relations, to foster investments, to habilitate more and more investments. And as a proof of outcome, of results out of these 10 years, we have one simple statistics. Being the European House Ambrosetti, the first Italian-based and fourth European think tank, we love numbers. So the foreign direct investment from Italy to SADC countries tripled since the start of our journey here in Southern Africa. And also the Italian foreign direct investment in South Africa tripled as well. We are investing 2.2 billion in South Africa from Italy and more than 3 billion in SADC countries. So we feel privileged to have accompanied such a development, such a growth expansion of the investment. And also we are at the record high global trade, both SADC European 27 countries and South Africa, European 27 countries, and as well as for Italy. So we are living and experiencing a very good moment, which is right before the start in a few weeks' time of the South African presidency of the G20. That will be an historical moment because it's the first time that any African countries will host such an important multilateral platform.
I like that you've mentioned South Africa's presidency of the G20. In your earlier address, you also mentioned some of the benefits or you applauding the South African government for their free and fair elections. As it stands, what are the current sentiment towards the South African economy from your viewpoint, and what ways are you planning to build upon that sentiment?
Yes, that's a very good point. First of all, I applaud to the choice of topics that the South Africa presidency decided to develop for the G20 next year, which is about growth, which is about inclusivity, which is about beating the poverty, which is extremely relevant. And we are ready as leading European think tank to accompany and push this movement even forward. Having said that, from the European perspective, there was little knowledge before our operations came up, little knowledge about even the opportunities, the numbers, the dimensions. We have demonstrated that SADC countries overall, by 2050, will be the largest market on earth. More than 2 billion people. We will add from tomorrow morning to 2050 as many as 900 million new inhabitants in the area, which is twice the dimension of the current dimension of European Union. So huge opportunities for everybody. And we brought here around 200 entrepreneurs from Italy and Europe to study, to understand. And the European House Ambrosetti have been recognized by the President of the Republic with the official Republic post stamp, the excellence of the knowledge of the nation. So we bring knowledge. We close the gap in terms of relations and knowledge. And we are assisting so many investors and entrepreneurs in considering Gauteng and South Africa as a possible location for further investments in the area. And a number of them, they have already done it, and they are studying how to do it at the best in the coming weeks and months.
I want to zero in on today's conference, which links European businesses and government with representatives from the African continent to strengthen trade and economic ties. From your perspective, operating in the digital economy, how important are dialogues like this to position Africa in a competitive digital space?
The Ambrosetti CEO dialogue is critical because when you look at the tenure that South Africa has been engaging with European countries, you see that European countries have been engaging with South Africa for many years. And so from that perspective, these discussions that Ambrosetti is affording us are so critical in ensuring that we can have real partnerships being developed, and also that new partnerships can be formed as well.
Just further expand why AI and the digital economy is so important for African economies.
The role of AI is critical because if we, as the Southern Africa, or in fact the whole of Africa, are saying that we want to be part of what is happening in the rest of the world, we need to have the skills to participate in this industry. And so from that perspective, this is something that's critical to us in terms of ensuring that we have the capability to provide the best service to all of our consumers. As a company, as Naspers, we have over 2 billion consumers around the world, and it's important for us to be able to provide the best service to them, and we're doing that through the use of AI.
Today marks the 11th year of the European House Ambrosetti CEO dialogue. I want you to reflect on the turn of the decade, the anticipation for the coming decade, and why it's so important to foster dialogue between Southern Africa and Europe.
No, thank you. So the first thing I think as we reflect is to think, what have we achieved? One of the big milestones, at least for me, is that if you look at the past 11 years when this dialogue started, trade between South Africa and Italy and even the continent has grown 3 times. And for me, there's value in consistency. People come here every year. Not only do we benefit in tourism and increase tourism, we're seeing it translating to business. So somebody comes, they meet potential business partners, they come the following year. They're no longer as new to the country. Now they know what questions they want to ask, who they want to meet. And then in between these dialogues, we keep the conversations going. So for me, it's been a big success.
So you've mentioned the progress that has been made and how trade has grown 3 times since the inception of this event. I know that throughout recent years it has been hosted in Gauteng. I want to zero in on the obvious choice for Gauteng as the investment destination of choice, and the role Gauteng plays in terms of fostering trade between Southern Africa and Europe.
So Gauteng is very important both to South Africa and the region. I mean, we have more than 140 direct flights. So if you want to come to South Africa, it's much easier when there's a direct flight and there aren't connecting flights for business people. We have the biggest economy in the country. We account for more than a third. But also, if you were to look at the Gauteng's economy as a standalone, it would be the 7th biggest economy in the continent. So that tells you that the scale to grow. We have the largest manufacturing and industrial base in the continent, the most sophisticated financial system. So there's a lot of things that you can take from South Africa and export to the rest of the continent. And we already export a lot to Europe, whether it's agricultural products, well processed, but the stronger component would be on the manufacturing, like the auto sector. So there are certain things that we're really strong at. So it makes a lot of sense that not only do you have, big base of business and manufacturing, but also from a consumer point of view, with the most populous province. More than 15 million people of the 60 million people in South Africa live in Gauteng. So if you want to sell products, it gets to be the most ideal place to be in. And naturally, you also have a depth of skills in the different sectors.
I want to also go back to some of the earlier sessions, which are honestly identified some of two key priorities that need to be worked on the African continent. More importantly, capacity building, but as well as taking advantage of Africa's youth population. I want to draw in the position of GGDA in tackling those two aspects.
Well, CNBC hosted the ABLA Awards, and we sponsored the Youth Entrepreneurship Award in the continent. And one of the reasons why we like that award is because it's future looking. These entrepreneurs are the ones who will solve Africa's problems of the future. They're also going to be the consumers of the future, and they are the ones who will see trade amongst Africans increasing. So that is a natural advantage that we have, similar to the fact that we have a lot of Arab land. But what you need is to capacitate them with, knowledge, but also capital. And that's one of the things that's been lacking in the continent. Even entities like, countries like South Africa with large balance sheets and deep capital markets, access has been fairly difficult because the market is concentrated and very conservative. So it doesn't tend to spread to the underserviced sectors. And that's what we've got to solve for and have growth in areas that are underserviced and not just concentrated in places like Gauteng. Even in South Africa, we want to see the growth spreading, because you're then going to overburden the areas that are growing because of just sheer concentration that doesn't make sense.
And that's how we wrap up another episode of Focus On at the European House Ambrosetti CEO Dialogue on Southern Africa. From me, Gyama Mosipili, and the rest of the CNBC Africa team, it's until next time.